Hello, Snow Leopards. Welcome to day 2. I know that you're getting started a little bit later today because we had early release yesterday, but do your best to get this list done. Okay, for today, in class, you are going to be completing on your doodle sheet letters G and H. You'll be making 2 group posters. Your group should be 4 to 5 people. One will be titled Ideas About Matter. The other one titled Ideas About Energy. You'll complete the Calorie King Tracking Sheet. And then make sure and leave your notebooks behind for me to check letters A through H. So, to start off, what the heck are matter and energy anyway? So, when we were looking back at the last bit of yesterday's, right, we were talking about the body, and basically we need matter and energy. So what does that even mean? We're going to review this. In Doodle G in your notebook, write down anything you know about matter. So, number 1 is asking you, what is matter? Just do your best for what you can put in there. Number 2 says, what do you know about matter? Put down any experience you have. Number 3, what are some examples of matter? And 4, do you know any of the rules about matter? It's okay if you don't. For right now, I just want you to put down what you think you know, discuss it with your partner, and then move on. So go ahead and pause this now and answer this. Okay, now go on to do stuff we know about energy. Write your ideas in Doodle G. What is energy? Again, just do your best. What do you know about energy? What are some examples of energy? And do you know of any rules about energy? So pause me now, put down these answers quickly, and talk about it with your partner if you'd like. But we're going to go more in depth, so you don't need to spend too much time here. Okay, so let's summarize what we've just been talking about. Which of our ideas about matter and energy seem important to record and remember as we continue to work through questions and food? So to help you answer the above, this is where you're going to be making your posters. In groups of 4 to 5 people, make 2 posters per group, and you're going to be titling them Ideas About Matter for one poster, Ideas About Energy for the other one. Put down all of the ideas you can, but please realize that as you go through and do this, we're going to come back and revisit these ideas. So don't feel like this is the end all be all. You're going to come back and look at this again. So pause this now, put in your posters, make your posters, Ideas About Matter, Ideas About Energy. Make sure your names are on these posters, and then we're going to come back to them. Okay, pause me now. All right, so now in thinking about matter and energy, can we all agree that we get matter from food? So that kind of makes sense, right? We get matter from food. The stuff that is in that banana you're consuming becomes the matter that makes up part of your body, right? But what about energy? Does that come from food? How does that work exactly? We're going to first look at the matter part of our question about food, but we will talk about energy along the way. So, what exactly is food? All of this food in this picture may look good to you, or at least some of it may look good to you. You'd want to eat it. But if I had a picture of a bunch of rocks here, even though it's matter, it wouldn't look so tasty. So what is food exactly? What does that mean? What do you eat? What do you typically eat for breakfast? What do you have for lunch? What do you have for dinner? What do you have for snacks? Take a moment, talk to your partner, and share what you typically eat during the day. Go ahead and pause me now to talk to your partner about the things you typically eat. I want you thinking about this for our next activity. Okay, now we're going to move on. What is in the food you eat and what is it made of? Well, let's figure that out. So there's a website called calorieking.com, and there are some worksheets back there for you snow leopards. You're going to fill out those worksheets as you investigate the website, calorieking.com. So what is this about? So on the paper, A Day in the Life, you're going to list each food that you eat, and then you're going to put in the top 4 substances in terms of amount, so how many grams of that substance is in it. So you're going to be determining that. And then go ahead and list that number of grams of each substance. Once you do that, you're going to compile a list of all of the substances that you've consumed or eaten, calculate the total grams of each, and determine the percentage of the total for each. There are some calculators in the back for you to do that too, or you may use your phones. Here's an example. So once you go to calorieking.com, there is a search bar. I put in the search of almond milk, something I enjoy drinking every day. It tells me the nutrition facts. If you scroll down, you'll see the nutrition facts. Keep in mind, you might see off to the right advertisements. You can just ignore those things or just extra bits of information. Forget about that. Just focus on the nutrition facts. So in almond milk, I want you to look on this slide which substance in this food is represented the most in almond milk. So where is the greatest amount? Also, notice that you've got subjects of food and then they're subdivided. You have total fat, and then within total fat you have saturated fat and trans fat. You have cholesterol, and then you also have sodium, and then you have total carbs, and then within total carbs you have dietary fiber, and then you have sugars. You have protein, that's on its own, and then you have calcium and potassium. So you really just want the categories that are to the far, that are all the way left aligned. If they're indented, that means they're a subcategory of the main one that's in bold. So, for example, which one would you choose? So pause me now, think about it. Which one would you choose as the greatest amount making up this food? If you chose total carbs or carbohydrates, you would be correct, because carbs have, almond milk for one serving has 8 grams of carbs. Now, what would be second? If you chose total fat, you would be correct, because fat has 2.5 grams. Keep in mind, it wouldn't be sugars, because a sugar is a kind of carbohydrate, and that's already included in the carbs. What would be third? Protein at 1 gram is listed as third. And then what would be fourth? I did. Okay, so at this point, you should have your Calorie King worksheet completely done. If you have not completed it, pause this now. Do not go any further. If you have completed it, let's move on to this slide. So, what do you really eat? Look at your Calorie King worksheet. What were the top 3 components of your food? I want you to record the top 3 components of your food in Doodle H. Pause me now and record that in Doodle H. Did you have proteins as one of your top 3 components? How about fats or lipids? What about carbohydrates? Are these the top 3 components of your food? They should be the top 3 components of your food. If they're not, pause for a moment and talk to other people around you if you didn't get these 3 components of your food. Okay, so the matter in our food is made mostly of molecules of proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. Do you know of anything else made of these molecules? Before we answer that, I just want to point your attention out to this graphic on the right, the percentage composition of the human body. Notice what is the greatest amount of substance that makes up the body. That would be water at 65%. And then if you are a very healthy athlete, if you are super healthy and quite lean, very thin, then fats would be 12% and your proteins at 20%. But just keep in mind the vast majority of the population, this graphic, if you actually go online and look up this kind of information, you're going to see a wide variety. And so typically males, healthy males, are going to have a fat percentage up to about 20%, and females are going to be in the 20-something%. And then if you're overweight or have excess fat on your body, it's going to be a higher percentage than that. So just keep that in mind when you're looking at this graphic. Okay. Now, answering our question, do you know of anything else made of these molecules? Well, you are made of the molecules. You're made of proteins, you're made of fats, and you're made of carbohydrates. Every living thing, actually, is made of proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. From my very happy, satisfied cat over here who's looking at me and keeps crying, to the geckos and the turtles in our classroom. They're all living things are made of proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. So you are what you eat. Why is that the case? Is it just a weird coincidence that our food is made from the same stuff as the bodies of all living things, including us? Take a moment to think about that. You are what you eat. The foods you're taking in are the same molecules that make up your entire body. Something you probably know, but kind of cool to really realize. So the matter in our food, again, mostly being proteins, fats, and carbohydrates, do those fats from food become your fat? Does the protein from food become your protein? Do the carbohydrates from food become your carbohydrates? So how does that work exactly? You are what you eat? Sort of? Does the carb that you're taking in transform into the exact carbohydrate that's in your body? Are we exactly what we eat? Does everything we eat get incorporated into our bodies? Now, what about the energy in our food? What is it made of? So you've probably heard the word calorie. That is the word we use, what we call the energy in our food. And maybe you're aware of how many calories you should be eating each day. Or maybe you've heard people talk about calories, and maybe you've looked at the amount of calories that are in your food. But what is a calorie? We know from this above question that it's the energy in our food, but what does that mean? So again, what is a calorie? Well, a calorie is the amount of energy needed to heat 1 kilogram of water 1 degree Celsius. Okay? So what's a kilogram of water? Well, this water bottle over to the right is a kilogram of water. It's a liter, and 1 liter of water is a kilogram. And a kilogram is 2.2 pounds, just to give you a sense of reference. So 2.2 pounds is the same as 1 kilogram. And you need to heat, so with 100 calories, you could potentially heat 1 kilogram of water 100 degrees from just melting all the way up to boiling. So if you would take 100 calories, you can heat 1 kilogram of water 100 degrees from melting all the way up to boiling. That's in Celsius. So again, 1 kilogram of water, a calorie is the amount of energy needed to heat 1 kilogram of water 1 degree of Celsius. We're not going to get hung up too much on this language, but just keep in mind that you know that food is our fuel. I've heard you mention it and talk about. And calories are just the way that we talk about the amount of energy in our food. And so just be aware of that as we're moving through that. As you all are the Snow Leopards, we will be getting into this in more detail. So, how exactly is the energy stored in food? What does that mean to have it stored in food? And we're going to come back to this later too. Looking at what we did today, what did we figure out? What are the big ideas we've gotten from our investigation of food using the Calorie King? Write down those ideas in your doodle box in box I. That's box I. So fantastic if you got all the way to I. I know I have you doing definitely through H, but if you got to I, that is awesome. Go ahead and pause me now and write that down. Okay, now that you have doodle box I written down, just check in with things you should have in there. So I'm expecting that you say that we figured out that our food is made of carbs and proteins and fats, and that we are made of carbs, proteins, and fats, as well as water. We talked about calories, but we're still a little uncertain about the exact nature of the energy component, and that's okay. Okay, that's your big overall. So, for today in class, hopefully you answered your doodle sheet from G to H and possibly all the way to I. You made 2 group posters titled Ideas About Matter and Energy. You completed the Calorie King Tracking Sheet, and you're leaving your notebook behind for me to check. Now, if you did not complete the Calorie King Tracking Sheet, have that as homework. Come tomorrow in class with that completely filled out. That will enable you to be on track to continue on for day 3 tomorrow. All right, congratulations. I was so impressed watching you work day 1 today. I'm really excited to see you continue on. You're doing fantastic. So keep up the good work.